Alright, so here in this quiz, we're going to look at 6.4. And some of these answers are accomplishable from a different method, but all the answers should still be the same. Alright, so I've changed this problem to a 2/3. Alright, so it wants us to write each expression in radical form. The denominator is the index, so there's the cube root from that. And then for the x squared, you could either put the squared there, or to all of it. Either one of those would be fine. Alright, t to the negative 2/7 power. First step is to realize we need to take the reciprocal of t. Then when I put this into radical form, I'd have the 7th root. I'm going to put the squared with the t in this case because I'm going to need to rationalize. So I might as well put the squared with the t because it gets me closer to making it to the 7th power anyways. Now, in order to escape the 7th power, I need this t to be the 7th power. So we want to bring in t to the 5th power. And what we do to the denominator, remember we must also do to the numerator. Now, when these multiply together, we get t to the 7th. So now in the denominator, we've got the 7th root, t to the 7th. In our numerator, when we multiply these straight across, we just have the 7th root of t to the 5th power. Now, 7th root of t to the 7th power is just a t. So this would be t on the denominator with this up top. Alright. So this one, now it wants us to write each expression in exponential form. So the denominator is 4 to match the index, numerator is 3. This one here, 5ab, all of it is to the denominator of 4 to the 3rd power as such. Alright, so simplify the following, leave all answers in radical form if needed, not exponential, and to rationalize if needed. Alright, so in this one, a couple approaches to it. What I'm going to do is go ahead and think of this as the square root of 75, which is 25 times 3. Take the square root out as a 5. So this is really 5 square root of 3. And 3 to the 1/2 power is the square root of 3. So now when I'm multiplying these together, the 3 and 3 can multiply underneath the root to get us 5 square root of 9. Square root of 9 is a 3. So, and this is really a 3, 3 times 5 is 15. Alright. So on this one here, 8 squared, 64. 64 to the 1/3 power, that's the cube root of 64. That's a 4. 8th root of 0. It's a 0. Okay. This one here, this is a same base. Add the exponents. So we've got 1/2 plus 1/3. Getting them common denominators of 6. We've got 3/6 plus 2/6 here. Add those up together, we get 5/6. So this would be x to the 5/6 power. But it says leave all answers in radical form. So this would be the 6th root of x to the 5th. Alright, 32 to the 1/5 power. That would be a 2. And then 2 to the 5th power. It's back to a 32. Another way of viewing this would be power to a power. 5 times 1/5 is 1. 32 to the 1st power is 32. 81 to the negative 1/2 power. Now remember, this negative does not impact whether our answer will be positive or negative. It tells us just to take the reciprocal. So we'd have 1 over 81 to the 1/2 power. 81 to the 1/2 power is a 9. So this would be 1 over 9. Okay, here I'm going to have to do power to a power to get y to the negative 18 over 3, which I can simplify that exponent to just a negative 6. Alright, which calls us to take the reciprocal, which would be 1 over y to the 6th. Alright. Moving on here. Power to a power. Now this 9 has an invisible 1 with it. Everybody has to get this 1/2. So we've got 9 to the 1/2 power, x to the second, 4 times 1/2 is 2, and then y to the -1. 9 to the 1/2 power is 3. Here's our x squared. Take the reciprocal of y, and there we have it. All right. So this one here, I'm going to go ahead and switch it into exponential form. So this should be x to the 2/5 over x to the 2/10, all right, which I can simplify that bottom denominator, that bottom exponent. 2 over 10 is the same thing as 1 over 5. So this is same base, subtract the exponents. So 2/5 minus 1/5 is a 1/5. So this final answer is x to the 1/5, but they asked for us to leave this in root form. So this would be the 5th root of x. All right. So here we go. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and address this negative and make it to where I've still got 8x to the 15th to the 1/3, but now in the denominator. So when I go power to a power, we'll get 1 over 8 to the 1/3, x to the 5th. 8 to the 1/3 is a 2, so this would be 1 over 2x to the 5th. All right. So that showed you some of the different scenarios that can come into play. Oh, it looks like I missed one here. Power to a power, even with that 3. 3 squared, a to the 1st, b to the 2/3. 3 squared is 9. b to the 2/3 power would be the cube root of b squared. So this covers some of the different scenarios out of 6.4. Now do be sure to really look through the homework because there's tons of different variations of this type of problem. If I was going to make a quiz that covered every different type of 6.4 scenario, I mean, probably have to be about 50 questions long. But this kind of gives you a good sense of where you're at in general understandings. Ones that are tricky is when you have to rationalize. So this one, very tricky. Beyond that, hopefully we're feeling pretty comfortable with this. And make sure you're feeling comfortable with negative exponents, that they tell you to take the reciprocal, even on some of the more complicated ones like the one that we just discussed, or on this one, 81 to the -1/2. I get a lot of people telling me this answer is a -9 because they know to square root the 81, but they think that negative tells them to make their answer negative, but it doesn't. It tells us to take the reciprocal.